Blog Talk Radio.
The pot is always hot. The best DJs on the block. Brewing deep soulful house music is what handsonradio.fm is all about.
And we're live back with another episode of Hands On Talk Radio. I'm your host, DJ Chuck. We don't have Tina Sinuosa with us today as a co-host. She's having some technical issues, but she is on the line listening, tune in. As always, folks, we stream live over the internet. If you want to tune in, you can go to handsonradio.fm/talk. If you want to listen over the phone, just call area code 347-237-5205. If you have a question or comment for Ultimate, just hit 1 on your keypad, and I'll see your hand raised on the switchboard, and I'll try my best to get to you throughout the conversation. For international folks listening over the web, if you have a question or comment, please click the click to talk button on the handsonradio.fm/talk page, and I'll see you show up on the switchboard as well and try to get to you. We're also taking questions from the Blog Talk Radio chat room and the Hands On Radio chat room. So you can use any of those methods to get to us. But without further ado, we want to say hello and welcome to the lovely Ultra Nate. What's up, Ultra?
What's happening, Chuck? Hey, all the Hands On Radio listeners out there.
It's good to have you on the show. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. Really here, we try to get a good snapshot of the career thus far and even the early life of Ultra Nate. You wear many hats, producer, record label owner, DJ, promoter, vocalist, performer, last but not least, mother and wife. And I'd like to know how does that play into all this? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
For me, I just try to move the chain forward every day and just a little bit in all of those areas.
Okay.
And that's all you can do. It's easier as you grow up and get a little better at some of the things that you started early on, with my songwriting and being an artist, and then, over time evolving into doing the label thing and the DJ thing and producing and, all of the other stuff. So you kind of take on more and more as you expand your horizons a bit and get a little more well-versed in how to maneuver things and how to find balance in your life.
Okay. Well, first we want to get started with just the early life of Ultra Nate. What was your musical environment like when you were a child? What did you feed off of when you were young, musically?
I was just your average inner city kid. I listened to my mom's 12-inch records, which were, soul classic kind of stuff, Chaka Khan, Commodores, Gene Chandler, Luther Vandross. And then I heard different things on the radio that may have been more pop-oriented, like Michael Jackson or, Depeche Mode or Madonna or something. I kind of spanned all over the place, really, and just listened to whatever I felt was musical. I didn't really have any particular styles or genre preferred one more than the other. I just kind of loved whatever was out there in the musical landscape. So I just kind of got on my radio dial and would just go surfing,
Okay. Did you participate in anything musically as a kid, or were you that kid that was always singing? Were you in the band?
No, none of that. None of that, actually. I sang in a local church choir kind of thing, but that was still kind of playing in the background. I wasn't like, the main vocalist, the lead vocalist or anything, by far that would indicate going into the music business. I've always considered myself the accidental artist because my plan was really to go into the medical field. And I kind of fell into the music business because I became a club kid, once I graduated from high school and hanging out in the clubs and meeting, the DJs who ended up being Basement Boys and starting to work with them just on music and stuff, and just started recording and writing and recording and just kind of stumbled on this talent for doing it. And, I was very fortunate at the time of where the music industry was, what the house music genre was becoming, and being a part of that early stages of it.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting you said the medical field. You're the second person we've interviewed that said they originally wanted to get into the medical field. The other one was Mark Evans.
Really?
Yeah.
What a small world. That's crazy.
That's interesting. You know, you want to help people. And I think you wind up doing that anyway in what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. It's a different discipline, but I think the end result still is the same, that you're extending yourself, you're giving yourself, and the end result is helping people and being there and trying to teach something and, just better people's lives in a way.
Mm-hmm. Well, most definitely. In a big way for you.
Yeah.
So, we had Teddy on a couple of weeks ago, and you came up. He was talking about the cattle call they had for Basement Boys, and comes you sounding like Angela Bofield. What even made you go to that? What made you say, I'm going to try this out and see what happens?
Just because I was, crazy enough as a kid to not be afraid to make a mistake, not be afraid to fail. I felt like I had nothing to lose, and it was just a fun adventure. I didn't take it really seriously until I was well into making my first album. That's when the kind of reality check hit me that, ooh, okay, this is like the real world, Before that point, it was all just kind of fun and experimental, so I was totally open to trying whatever. I had never really sang before as a lead vocalist, and I had never written a song before, so those were my first efforts at doing it. Just kind of turned out to be the first record that I ended up putting out, and being signed to a major label. It was a lot of circumstances that worked in my favor. Basement Boys had done their first single, Love Don't Live Here No More, with Jump Street Records at the time, and their A&R person, Cynthia Cherry, had left Jump Street and then went to Warner in the UK, and they were shopping their new projects to her, and one of the things she wanted to sign when she took on her new job at Warner was my record. Mm-hmm. So, it was just kind of like there was just something happening in the universe that I was not aware of. I just kind of went with it because I felt like, it was going to be a great experience, and I had nothing to lose. That was really just kind of my thinking, is just to explore it, experiment, have fun with it, and, if it doesn't work out, well, this isn't what I plan on doing anyway, so it's just something fun and cool to do right now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you've had the atypical career for an artist. I mean, most people start on independent labels, kind of work their way up. You came right out the box, 2 albums, major labels. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was a very surreal experience. Even now, when I think back on it, I can clearly remember when I was working with the Basement Boys and my record was being signed, and the folks from Warner Brothers calling me from the UK while I was still working at my job in Baltimore, and next thing I know, I was on an airplane and going over to record a video and do a performance on Top of the Pops. So, it was kind of like all these amazing things were happening. And I was like, where's all of this coming from? What is happening here,
Teddy said he saw your
still trying to figure out, what is everybody hearing that's so amazing? What are they hearing? But, it was cool. And then it actually, in the beginning, it was supposed to be a deal for just 2 singles, and then I started writing some other stuff for a diva at the time who was really huge in the UK. I had written a song for her album, which was really different from It's Over Now, which was my first single. And I think whatever context I wrote that song in made the label see, I guess, that I had some, depth or whatever skill for writing in different styles or what have you. And so it became an album deal from that situation. So it was like a lot of things were happening that I wasn't aware of in terms of beforehand, like I'm going to do this in order to get this end result. It was just kind of, I was just doing things spontaneously or being in the right situation and going with it. The opportunities were opening up, and, we maximized it at the time, myself and the Basement Boys.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so you were with them from what, like 89 to 93 or something like that? That's right. 88 actually, because Warner, It's Over Now circulated on
just on white label for like a year on a demo cassette. On a cassette,
right.
Can you believe that?
Mm-hmm.
And for a year, a song could never circulate for a year and still come out and top be in the pop charts. Like that does not happen anymore with the internet. But yeah, we started actually working probably in 87, 88, and then the single actually came out commercially in 89 in the UK, and actually it was crazy because it was an import here in the States. So for many years, most people here thought I was British.
Wow, that's interesting. And I, from what I understand, they were towards the end of that relationship with Warner UK. They were trying to push you in the R&B direction. What was that?
Yeah, they were. Well, the things were changing musically, sonically. What was happening with the underground house scene? A lot of underground house artists had been signed. When it first started coming out from the underground, the record labels were paying attention to what, like, Tony Humphries was playing in New York, and Norman J. was the equivalent of Tony Humphries. He was from the UK, and all of these underground tracks were being made in people's basements or on these smaller systems. So it was the production value was good, but it was more cost effective because you didn't have to bring in all of the major instrumentation and major production level that it usually took to make R&B and disco records. Mm-hmm. So now you had this scene that's called house, which is kind of the daughter of both of those situations, but done cheaper. Mm-hmm. But then you're releasing it commercially. In order to make music more commercially viable, it has to be palatable for the masses. Mm-hmm. So it couldn't be quite so underground in terms of, like, the production being muddy and the songs being just kind of like cool or whatever. You're going more for, you're going more for commercial appeal. So you want to make things in a broader sense, in a more polished sense. And that became the demand by the time we had to do our second album, also because our contract had went from Warner UK to Warner US. So now we were dealing with the heads of Warner in the US, like Benny Medina and, all of those cats asking for certain things. Mm-hmm. And so you want to try to meet that while still remaining true to your roots and try to meet somewhere in the middle. They really wanted to break me in the U.S., so it was a whole different bag of chips.
Well, they at least trying to make you mix it up, or they were just like, no, you're just going to go straight R&B?
Well, they were a little more subtle about it. I mean, they gave us the big, record label spiel about what a great job we did with our first album. But now we were on Warner US, and it's a different animal. The UK, the music there that's pushed in the UK is very different. It's very eclectic. I mean, what happened when Soul to Soul came out. I mean, everybody loved it. It was a very different vibe from the US style of R&B dance music. So, we could do things when we were with a UK label musically that were not so palatable for the US label. They wanted us to make it more straight down the middle, as opposed to having a kind of eclectic style to it. Mm-hmm. And, you kind of want to try to do that because these are the people that are pushing the buttons and that are paying the checks for things to get done and investing in you and in your product and pushing you to, to market and promote you and build you as an artist out there. So you want to try to meet them halfway. So we did. I mean, we made our best effort, I think, at that time for where we were creatively to meet them halfway.
Okay. Question I should have asked you right out the box. Where's the name come from?
It's my birth name.
Ultra Nate.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't know that all these years. Another thing I want to ask you, Ultra, is, I mean, you have a huge gay following. You have both. Yeah, I still know grown men in their 30s and 40s who act like they're 16 years old when they're around you. They are still in love, and you still look the same. You ain't changed at all. We'll get to that later, because I'm interested to know, what do you do? You can give out
I do have a huge gay following, and that's been great.
I mean, was that immediate? Was that something that came? Did it take them a while to find out who you are? Or was that immediate as soon as you came out in the UK?
I think it just kind of happened organically. You know, there was nothing we did specifically. There was no grand design for that to happen. Just universally around the globe, I've just always had a large gay following from the beginning. You know, the gay community always embraces, you know, a really strong personality, a strong profile. They love, you know, the divas. They idolize them. You know, they really kind of put them on a pedestal and really love and appreciate what they do and what they bring as artists. So I've always been embraced by them. I'm not really sure why. My music, I guess, appeals to that community. And I guess whatever I represent as an artist appeals to them. And it works for me because they've been very big, very, very big supporters of my career from beginning to current day. Okay.
We're going to get a little bit more into the diva-dom a little later in the conversation. I want to talk about these costumes, you know, all that stuff, everything that you're doing, because I'm sure people want to know.
Homework, Chuck. You've done your homework.
I've been watching you for the past 20 years. All I have to do is watch.
That's true.
But yeah, I want to get into all that because I'm sure people want to know. I mean, there's a lot to this image that you put out there. You know, there's a lot visually. You know, to this whole thing that makes up Alternate Day. And we got to get into all that. We got a whole hour. You know, we gonna get down. All right. We got Alternate Day on the line. This is Hands On Talk Radio. If you want to tune in via the phone, you can tune in, or you can call 347-237-5205. Remember, if you have a question or comment, you all are free to have your questions and comments heard over the air. Just press 1 on the switchboard, and I'll see your hand raised, and I'll be sure to get to you before the interview is over. You can also tune in at handsonradio.fm/talk. If you have a question and you're tuning in via the web, you can use the Click to Talk feature on Blog Talk Radio. We're also taking questions from the Hands On Radio chat room and the Blog Talk Radio chat room. So also wanted to get back into the timeline here, just to get all this historical stuff out of the way. You know, you leave Warner UK in '93, and then I believe you picked up in like 95, 96, something like that, with Strictly Rhythm.
Yep.
How was the experience with Strictly? I'm sure they let you do what you wanted to do your thing.
No pun intended. Yeah, pretty much. I spent the couple of years in between working on my next album, even though I had no album deal in place. You know, I've always just had that work ethic to work towards what my ultimate goal is, and that was to do an album. So, you know, at that point when the relationship with Warner came to an end, for me it was a blessing and a curse. And it was a blessing in that they really didn't know what to do with us as a production team in the U.S. They really didn't have things together. It's very convoluted working with a major label sometimes. It sounds very glamorous on the outside, but it's really, really difficult, especially with what the dance music genre was at that point in time. You know, dance music appeals to the R&B community and to the gay community and to this community and that community, and it's really difficult for a major label to kind of put that in a box and say what your demographic is when you appeal to a broad spectrum of people. It's really difficult for them, and that's really important for labels, for majors like that, to be able to know who they're selling this to, what exactly it is, and who they're selling it to. So it was kind of a really rough situation for us. And the reason that I say it was a curse at the same time was that it was the only relationship that I ever knew in terms of a record label. I started out on a major, having major label budgets for marketing and promotion, for videos, for artwork, for tour support, for all of the things that come with being on a major. And so then you're in the position where you're going to another label. There are certain things you just don't want to sacrifice because you've had this really charmed experience, and this is the only experience that you've ever known, you know. So it was kind of a catch-22. I didn't want to necessarily go to another major, but then I didn't want to go to an independent that had no money, because at the end of the day, you have to spend money in order to make money. You know, you can have the greatest record in the world, but if you can't get it out to the masses, nobody will know that it even exists. So the relationship with Strictly, I knew Gladys Pizarro, the A&R head at Strictly, for many years from a distance. I didn't know her personally, but she came to myself and my manager, Bill, and wanted to, you know, do a record. And she really hung in there for a while, because it took a while for us to negotiate something. But I had decided that if I was going to go to an indie, that Strictly Rhythm would be the one, because they did have hits. So I knew they did have, you know, some capital to work with, at least put some money behind the situation. And all I needed to do was just deliver something. So Gladys, you know, once we worked out the deal, she was very trusting. You know, she knew I came from a major. She knew Bill's work ethic and mine, and she knew she didn't really have to A&R me. All she needed to do was give me the tools and the resources to do what I needed. Bill came up with the idea of me working with Mood to Swing, writing with Lemon John, and basically we just went in the studio and got on with it. I conceptually had the idea as far as what I wanted to make happen from my first single with Strictly, and that was I wanted it to be a very guitar-based song. So from that concept, we started working on music and then building a story of what the song would be about, and we crafted Free and turned it into the record label. And, you know, at the time, we really liked the song, but we had no idea whether anyone else would like it. And really that was our basic hope. We just, you know, we hope people like it, because it's a really different sounding record. Intentionally, it's a different sounding record than anything else that's out there right now. And that's either going to make it or it's going to break it. So you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it.
Which turned out to be a huge hit.
That's pretty much always been my attitude. Yeah. It turned out to be a massive hit around the globe.
Was that your biggest hit? Was that your biggest hit?
Yeah, Freeze sold a lot of records around the globe over the years, and it's my biggest hit to date. And then Found a Cure would be second, which was the second single that came out after Free.
And you had some Free remixes that came out not too long ago, right?
Yeah, last year Strictly did some official sanctioned mixes. You know, people have, you know, the acapellas floating around out there, so occasionally, you know, DJs are doing bootlegs and stuff over the years, which to me is great, because it's kept the song alive for the younger generations that have come up. So it's still a very prevalent classic. It's not one of those classics that you hear once every blue moon. Like, it's very prevalent and still out there and being played all the time. But they Strictly did do a sanctioned remix last year with Bob Sinclair. So, yeah, it's like the saga continues.
You know, speaking of the younger generation, you know, you're one of the few house artists that are actually able to do that. You know, I see you, like I was watching the video, I think you were at Prism, Aqua. It was an Aqua Prism party. It's a big gay pride party they do up in Toronto. And I'm looking at these guys, and I'm like, some of these guys weren't even born when you came out.
Possibly.
Yeah. You know, but they know and they love you, you know, and that's something that when I look at the rest of the house scene, because, you know, Archer, when I look at you, I see, you know, I know the whole international thing, and you do several kinds of house music, but I always see you as part of the Soulful family, because that's just where we know you from, you know, and I always compare you to other folks who've been around just as long doing that, and you don't see that kind of following. I mean, you're hard pressed to go to somewhere where someone's performing soulful house music, and you see people that young, whether they're gay or not. It doesn't matter. I mean, you just don't see that age range in there like that. And you're one of the few people that have been able to pull that off. Is that important to you, to reach out to the younger folks?
Oh, it's vital. It's vital to your career. If you want to have a career.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you can't get stuck, because, you know, people get older and they move on, and the next generation is coming in the clubs and turning on the radio, and you want to be relevant. You know, at least I do. I enjoy, you know, being relevant in today's marketplace, and not just living on the glory days of, you know, previous old school classics. Right. I mean, they definitely have their place, and you know, I never would, look a gift horse in the mouth. I love the fact that I have a lot of classic records to my credit, but that's not going to sustain you in terms of the next generation looking at you as a viable artist on the current situation, and that's very, very important.
Well, what's your take on? I'm just sticking with this younger generation thing for a second here. What's your take on what's going on over in South Africa now? I mean, they have a whole heap of young folks. I'm talking 14, 15-year-old kids. They have DJ crews. I get these guys that contact me all the time. They have crews like we used to do when we were young, 15, 16. I mean, but they're playing house music. They're not listening to Lil Wayne. And I don't know how.
Well, music is a cycle. It's a cycle, and that's it's good to see that it's bubbled up somewhere else, because it's really difficult in the U.S. Hopefully the U.S. house scene will come back to some kind of relevancy, but it's great to see that it's happening somewhere, on some level in a real way, and for the younger generations. I think the younger generations are definitely looking for like the next thing musically for them to get into. They've grown up with hip-hop in all of its various evolutions now. And, every 20 years or so, the music has to evolve and change.
Okay. I mean, do you have your sights set on just penetrating that market over there?
Well, I think that will happen organically anyway. I'm not focused on that specifically. For me, putting out records that are going to make a mark universally and be not just relevant on the current day dance floor, but also sound good and still work 10, 15, 20 years from now, is what I think about when I'm crafting a record. I don't necessarily say, hey, this track is going to be something that's going to appeal to the South African kids. You just make good music, and I think it'll transcend all of those barriers, and it'll make its way around to, whatever marketplace it works for. I've done, a more soulful kind of traditional house kind of record with Give It To You with Quentin Harris recently. And then my next single that's coming out, Turn It Up, is a very commercial pop disco kind of record with, obviously an underground remix on it or whatever. But, it's like those records will find their place in whatever particular genre or demographic that appreciates it. As long as they're great records, if they sound good, they're well written, that's really what's going to be most important. Okay.
We have Alternateo on the line, folks. If you want to listen via the phone, 347-237-5205. This is Hands On Talk Radio. I'm your host, DJ Chuck. You can also tune in over the web, handsonradio.fm/talk. If you have a question, you're listening via the phone, feel free to hit 1 on the keypad, and I'll see your hand raised on the keyboard, and we'll be sure to get to you. Before we got off on this youth and reaching out to a younger generation tangent, we were talking about you and your time with Strictly Rhythm. Do you still have a relationship with Strictly Rhythm?
Oh, absolutely. I did 2 albums with Strictly. My last album being in 2004 with them. And then the albums after that were on my own label. But now, currently, I have my Blue Fire label, which was geared only for my releases that I've been putting out albums on for the last 6 years. And now Strictly is backing my second label, which is Deep Sugar Music. So I'm still very much in cahoots with Strictly.
Ah, okay. I didn't know they were backing, which is now owned by Defected.
No, not at all.
No? Did they buy? They bought the catalog?
There's a very big misconception. No.
Oh, okay.
When Strictly came back on the scene, they partnered with Defected in order for Defected to bring the label, the profile of the label back up and to the younger generations that didn't know Strictly. And now that has been completed, they have parted ways amicably, and Strictly is completely on its own again.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, that's a bit of information we need to know. I didn't know that. I didn't know they parted.
Yep.
Okay. All right, and you're on what? Album number, 8, 9?
8. I'm working on number 8 now. It's called Hero Worship, to come out hopefully this summer if all goes well. I'm really trying to push to get it done and ready and to be actually commercially released by the summer.
Okay. All right.
I've got 8 and 9 in the queue.
Okay, so let's talk about Sugar, which is now Deep Sugar. Started off as Sugar, turned into Deep Sugar. Used to do it on a little spot down on Charles Street. Now, you know, fortunate enough to have this thing going on in the Paradox every month. What prompted you to start the party?
Well, you know how the situation was in Baltimore. You know, what happened in the mid-'90s when the dance music scene and house music specifically started drying up and not being supported so much by the majors. Then the trickle-down effect is that radio drops it as well. The trickle-down from that is that the average Joe no longer is hearing it, and you lose support on all levels. So the scene had started to shrink immensely in the city. And rather than complaining about it, I just decided to start a party and bring my vision of what I wanted, you know, bring it to fruition. You know, it's very easy for people to sit back and say what someone else is or is not doing. It's much harder to put yourself out there and extend yourself, your time, and your money in order to build something and take the risk. But it was necessary for me because, you know, the dance music scene, the house music scene is what started my career, quite accidentally, but it was the first night I walked into Odell's to go dancing and didn't know what to expect. But that was a life-changing experience because that venue, that club, the sound system, the lights, the people, the energy, it impacted me in such a way that, you know, it changed the course of what I thought my plan was supposed to be for my life. There was another plan in store for me. And so I wanted to bring that back to Baltimore in a way, to give that back to Baltimore, that opportunity for someone else to walk into our party and feel like, wow, this is something special. This is something that could, you know, change the course of their life.
Have you gotten
as we all know, it can be it's a spiritual kind of release a lot of times, and people need that. You know, you need that. So doing the party is like, it's my labor of love, but you know, it's a selfish labor of love because I'm gratified by it on a personal level also. But I like the fact that, you know, people come and they experience house music for the first time and they're overwhelmed and, you know, just like, oh my gosh, where have I been? What have I been missing all this time?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, that's what it's all about. Now, even when I heard that you started the party, first thing came to my mind, I was like, how did she find time to do a party? I mean,
yeah, right. Okay. Well, you know, that is really, I have to give kudos to my staff of people that work with me at the party because, you know, I really couldn't do it on my own. You know, I'm in the control seat and definitely like putting things into play and bringing it all the way home, but I couldn't do it without the people that are my support system. You know, you can be the figurehead, but you need the support system to really, really make it all come together. So, you know, everybody that's worked with the party, both past and present, have, you know, provided such an amazing amount of support necessary in order to make the party a success that has become, you know, at this point.
Now, this party gave birth to a whole nother dimension, yet another dimension of alternate, which is the DJ. I remember coming down there in like 2006. I look up in the DJ booth, you up there.
That is correct. Well, the DJ thing kind of actually, I got the timeline wrong. The DJ thing started first.
Really? Where?
I started the party. Yeah, the same year. We were just DJing. Myself and Lisa were just DJing in the house, or you know, just around at our different friends' house, whoever had setups. And it happened really quite accidentally. I remember it was because like I said, the scene had started shrinking up so bad. We used to all go to Good Love all the time, and then Good Love kind of closed, and then it became Red Maple, and we would go hear Donnie Berlin play, and you know, this one or that one, the little parties here and there around town, but it really started getting really difficult. And I think the catalyst was like when Donnie's night, I think it used to be Friday nights, when Donnie's night was ended. I think the whole like underground community just kind of went into a riot.
That's Donnie Berlin.
Just kind of lost it. Yeah, Donnie Berlin. Yeah. Everybody just kind of like was so pissed off and upset. It kind of lost, and then it was like, you know, fight the power. You know, nobody cares about house music. You know, we're boycotting the Red Maple. It just got really, you know, kind of political and really, really evil for a minute. But you know, it was a sign of the times. It really was. And at that point, we were just kind of like, you know what? I don't even want to go out at the moment, but I want to hear some good music. So let's just go over, I think it was my little sister Basie's house, and just play records. So Lisa kind of scrounged together all her 12 inches, and I got to scrounge together all my 12 inches. Yes, we still played vinyl back then.
Yeah.
Before the car was invented. You know, and we went over there and we just started playing records, and we had never actually played them other than, like, you play one, you let it run out, and then you put the next one on, you know, to intentionally try to beat blend and segue from one record to the other seamlessly. It was the first time we had ever tried that. And, of course, you know, it was shoes in a dryer. It was a complete mess. But, you know, the selections were good. And, you know, for me, that was enough because, you know, I felt like the beat blending and all of, you know, mastering the technical part will come in time with repetition. You know, that will come. What's most important is your programming and knowing what to play and knowing what's going to move people and what feels good to you. And all of my mentors in house music, some of the great DJs, you know, that's always been the first thing that they said, is that the beat blend is not so much the thing. It's how do you create a feeling? Mm-hmm. How do you make people, you know, want to pull their hair out? How do you make people want to cry on the dance floor? What's going to move people beyond that moment for that night to live in their minds and in their hearts for years to come? Well, that's what's more important than being an amazing technician. While that's great and necessary, that's not the most important part of it. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, and being, you know, a renegade as usual, and not caring about the fallout, I just said whatever and took my chances and started playing. So Lisa and I just started doing it that way, and we did it for like 6 months, just running around playing on everybody's systems and mastering it and learning little tidbits here and there and getting better slowly. And that's when I decided to start the party. And, you know, we would play, and basically I felt like, you know, we would cut our chops on the best way that you're supposed to, and that's in front of a crowd. Because that's a hell of a learning curve right there. Mm-hmm. You're going to get it together. You're going to get it together when you're under pressure.
Especially when it's your party.
If you're under pressure, you're going to figure out how to get it together. You're going to make the best of it. And so that's kind of how it was born, and the rest is history. Just over time, you know, we got better with the support of, you know, the guys that are a part of the Deep Sugar residents, Jerome Hicks and Tommy Davis. You know, and Teddy Douglas on the satellite tip, you know, he comes in there and jumps in on Deep Sugar tip too for us, and all of the guest DJs that we've had over the years, and people who, you know, who I can appreciate as DJs and have listened to for many years, having them as guests come in periodically or whatever, both locally and internationally or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's really what the platform was about, was to create this situation where not only, you know, the hometown jocks had a platform to play, but also the relationships that I have with DJs, you know, on the global tip, to be able to come to Baltimore, and the people in Baltimore to have that, you know, to be able to hear those DJs, and also for those DJs to experience our scene. You know, it's reciprocal. It's a multi-pronged approach. It's building our scene from the inside out and from the outside in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially now that you're at the Paradox. You know, I know a lot of guys they love to play there. You know, there's very few places.
Yeah, but you know, even when we were at 1722, you know, people still wanted to play. They just, you know, they want an opportunity to play. And a lot of my friends that are, you know, big DJs, you know, out there making thousands of dollars to go and be somewhere, but still want to come here and play. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember Louis was down there when you were on Charles Street.
Exactly. Louis came at least a couple of times, you know. Yeah. DJ Marley Marl. Marley Marl has been there.
That's right,
you know,
Marley Marl. That's right. He sure did come down, yep.
Stevie, and I mean, the list goes on if I sit here and think about it long enough. As well as the artists. I mean, Jocelyn Brown performed when we were at 1722. Jody Watley performed in there. Crystal Waters performed in there. CeCe Peniston performed in there. I mean, it's like, you know, a lot of people who are, you know, really name people in the big scheme of things that make a lot of money to be somewhere else on a Friday or Saturday night, sacrifice that night to come to Baltimore. Like, that's unheard of.
Yeah, and that wasn't a big spot, you know, because I heard Louis, you could barely walk around in there when Louis was there.
That's right. It was barely, you know, but it's the love that you get, you know, and the love that he gets from the Baltimore crowd. And, you know, we have a really great relationship. And so, you know, that's really what rebuilding a scene is about, is, you know, creating that kind of platform. And that's, you know, what the vision for me has always been. And so now being at the Paradox, obviously, you know, we've expanded our wings, but what people don't realize is that we've also taken on a much bigger nugget to pull off. You know, that's a big venue to fill.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so people everybody's so hot to play. I want to play. You know, they don't think about what it takes in order to get people to come into that venue, because, one, you're playing a genre of music that a lot of people don't know or support. They're bringing in, either use your hometown DJs, then you only have small pockets of people who come out to support them.
Right.
The majority, you know, your average Joe don't know who these DJs are, so that's not going to pull them there. Mm-hmm. Then you have a venue who may be stigmatized to the average person. You know, is it too black? Is it too gay? It's a warehouse. Like, you know, there's no liquor. Like, there's, you know, the list could go on.
Right.
The stereotypes and all of the negative things that people feel and think about the music and the scene, the venue, the party. You know, what's Deep Sugar? Is it gay? Is it black? Is it what? You know, I've even had some of the black people that come to the party say it's too white. There's too many white people there now.
Wow.
It's too gay. It's too white. It's too black. It's too. You know, there's always a problem.
And that's crazy, because that used to be why we liked house music, because everybody was there. Everybody.
Because it was inclusive of everyone. And that has always been the plan
where that comes from.
For Sugar from Go, because we've always promoted to different pockets of people so that we would garner a diverse crowd over time. We never had any intention for it to be just one demographic of people. That's so boring and so whack. You know, that's not what I'm about as an artist. And that's not what I want my party to represent. I want everybody to be in the building, black, white, gay, straight, old, young, blind, crippled, or crazy. As long as you're there enjoying the music and getting your dance on and bringing positive vibes, you're welcome here.
Okay.
You know?
Has the DJ thing, since you started DJing, I know you had a couple radio shows. You still doing radio shows?
Yes, I've had a radio show in France for 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's Radio FG, and it goes out over all of France and all French-speaking territories around the world. So it's pretty broad, and actually I think they're getting ready to start in the U.S. as well. Mm-hmm. I've been DJing for them as a resident for 3 years now. They actually the program director heard me at one of the Tommy Boy parties at the Winter Music Conference about 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. He was at the party and got in touch with my booking agent and was like, I heard Ultra play last night, and I really, really wanted to be a resident on the radio station. And this station, when I looked to see who the other residents are, it's a lot of really huge DJs, global jocks, big boys, you know, and there's only maybe a handful of women. It probably altogether, it's probably about 4 of us out of like 30, 40 men. And, you know, really top huge names on the international circuit. So, you know, it's a really big honor to be on this station, because a lot of people are trying to get on it. A lot of DJs that, you know, are trying to build their profile or already have a big profile are trying to get a show on there. And they've kept me for 3 years. You know, every year they change the roster and, you know, do a little house cleaning and shifting things around and changing people's slots and, you know, letting go of some DJs and bringing on some others. And I've made the cut for 3 years straight, so I must be doing something right.
We're going to take it to the switchboard just for a second.
Okay.
We got Alternate on the line. The way this works is I see a couple folks with their hands raised on the switchboard. I'll call out the first 3 digits of the area code and get you on the line. Caller calling from 770 area code. You got a question or comment for Alternate?
Man, just wanted to send some love from Texas over here. It's Andrew Jackson. Ultra, you are the bomb. I'm trying to tell you, man, we used to just lose our minds with It's Over. That is like one of my favorites up in fantasy. We used to do that thing up in fantasy, baby. I'm telling you. The boys used to pump. They used to pump your stuff. You hear me? I mean, seriously. So I'm listening to you. I'm telling you, you are so inspirational. Your words have been hitting home. I'm loving it. And all I want you to do is just keep doing what you're doing. God bless you. Chuck, you know what it is, bro.
What's up, man? That's Drew's house. Thanks for calling, man.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay.
Take care.
Send us some love in Texas. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. We got Alternate on the line. We got about 10 minutes left. It went by fast, Ultra. I told you this would fly by. This is DJ Pop.
Didn't even get it in my costume yet, see?
Oh, no, we're going to get into it. We got a little extra time to play with now. We got a little extra time to play with. So if we go over, we go over. But we most definitely are going to get into the diva stuff.
I can't wait for that part.
I actually forgot where we left off. Oh, we were talking about Deep Sugar. And it's something that just popped in my mind, and I was wondering, when you're out there, are you ever asked to perform double duty? Were they like, Ultra, okay, we want you to sing, and we want you to hop on the desk and DJ?
I do it all the time now. I do it all the time. I was in Italy last week, and I had one gig in Milan and 3 gigs in Naples, and all of them were combination singing and DJ gigs. So I do it all the time now, actually.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You ever think about just, retiring? You know, some people that retire in the DJ, like Boy George, for example. They just kind of just become an international DJ. And
I couldn't really ever do that. For me, I have a great love for both sides of the equation. And people always ask me which one do I prefer, singing or DJing, and there's really no comparison. It's really like apples to oranges. It's just a different context and a different form of expression. And I could never really imagine not getting on stage and singing to a crowd. That would be like really tragic to not do that, or writing songs anymore or whatever. And vice versa. Now that I do play, I really love doing it, and I can't imagine not doing it. So I guess it'll be happening for quite a while.
My father called. He said something interesting. He said he thinks a lot of what you're doing is preordained, and you honestly got to admit you've had like a magical life. Just even the way you started out. And I know that sounds crazy, but if you
magical, baby.
Yes, magical.
That is funny. I think some things are just really meant to be, and if if you're open to what the universe is going to bring you, then you receive your blessings. Then after that point, you have to decide what you're going to do with it, and the rest of it is preparation and continuing to be prepared and continuing to move forward, and then opportunities present themselves. The more you prepare yourself, the more opportunity presents itself, and you're able to maximize it when it does happen because you've spent the time preparing. So I think it's a mixture of both things, because I could have completely fell off once I was dropped from Warner Brothers in 93, 94, whatever year it happened. I could have fallen off and gone off into obscurity and never made another record again after that, and just said, okay, that was great, thanks for the memories. But my choice at the time was to take what I had acquired at that point and maximize it and move to the next stage of my development and the next level.
The reason I brought that up is because I was wondering if, especially in your early career, did you have any mentors or other folks out there, any of the other divas out there, Barbara Tucker, any of these people who kind of saw something in you? They saw, you got something. I think you're going to be around for a long time. Did you have any mentors that kind of put you under the wing and try to nurture you earlier on because they saw something?
No, not really, because, I lived in Baltimore. I wasn't really around like any of the New York or New Jersey girls that were blowing up, at that time. Barbara I didn't meet until I was actually, I met Barbara. She was the background singer for Delight, and I was the opening act. So by the time I met Barbara, I was already doing what I was doing, and she was just getting ready to get started like making records in the next couple of years and achieving her success. Really, the only one that I was around was Crystal, because we were in the same camp, but we were both starting out at the same time, and we still didn't really know each other. You know, it was when my studio time was scheduled, I was in the studio. When hers was scheduled, she was in the studio. So we actually didn't even really cross paths much. I didn't really get to know Crystal till many, many, many years later, after we had both accomplished, you know, all the things we're going to accomplish. Now, you know, we're good girlfriends, but when we were actually in the process of doing it, we hardly ever saw each other, if at all. So I wasn't really around anyone that was doing what I was doing. I was kind of living this very surreal experience, a kind of a double life, I would call it a lot of times, because I lived in Baltimore, and I hung out with the same friends that I hung out all the time with, that I went to Fantasy and Nodell's and my crew never changed. And then I would go and get on a plane and go to Europe and be famous. And then I come back home and be not famous and hang out, you know, with normal people, and it was fine. It was completely fine. I know it sounds retarded, but I mean, you know, I'm a Pisces, so I can kind of be two people at the same time and be completely comfortable with it.
I'm a Pisces too, and I understand.
Yeah, and so you have a mutable personality, so it's like, okay, this is what we're doing at this moment. This is who we are. This is what's going on, and then you can completely be a totally different thing 15 minutes later.
Like I say, be water, my friend.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. It's interesting the way you and Crystal, and actually I didn't know this until we did the interview with Teddy, and Teddy was saying Crystal came along. She was supposed to write for you, you know, this Gypsy Woman thing, and it turns out she wound up being the lead vocalist on it just because she just had this interesting thing.
She had that thing. I mean, I did a demo of it, but, you know, me and the boys afterwards, I was like, that thing is just not there when I'm singing it. She's got a thing. You know, it's just that very specific character of her voice. To me, that's really what being an artist is about. It's not about who can sing the loudest, who's a screaming diva all over the building. You know, you can riff all up and down the block. There's a lot of great singers out there under street lights. However, to be an artist, you have to have that thing, that very stylistic thing that makes you, you know, resonate in a different way, in a very special way. And Crystal had a very specific character to her voice with that song written by her, so, you know, she could bring it to life in a way that nobody else could, really. And so I was like, she needs to do this song. I don't know what you guys need to do, but y'all need to make that happen. And so the rest is history. Okay.
So we got about 5 minutes left officially. Like I said, we got time. I can stress this thing. But I want to get into just the diva-dom. But first and foremost, the foundation of this is just you physically. Before we even get into the costumes and the makeup and stuff, what do you do to stay so young? Earlier today, I put up 2 videos up on Facebook on the Handz Radio fanbase. I put up It's Over Now. And then I put up the one you got with Quentin Harris. And I said, this woman looks exactly the same. And they're like 20 years apart.
Yeah,
or more,
thank
maybe.
God. Ain't that great? Well, the first thing is genes. Genes. You know, you can only control but so much. So you got to have good genes, hopefully. And then the rest of it is what you do, you know, environmentally and lifestyle. I've never been into heavy drinking, never been into drugs, never smoked. And then lifestyle-wise, I eat clean. I'm a bit of a gym rat, as my friends call me. I do yoga. So, you know, I take good care of myself, and that's what you have to do. Staying lean is really the key to youth, because weight ages you. It really does.
Yes. And I
and everybody's gone through it. Everybody's weight fluctuates here and there. When I had my son, I was an absolute, you know, whale. But, you know, after that was over, that needed to come off.
I remember when you were pregnant. You were not a whale.
I was Jabba the Hutt. Stop it, Jabba. I was a walking jellyfish. I know it. It's fine. It's okay.
But, you know, it's funny. I can testify that. I remember being in Sugar. I think we were broadcasting there, and I'm like, it was like one of those marathon parties. and I just did 347 the night before, so I'm beat. And you're like, Chuck, you want something? And I look, you got a bag of energy bars. Now, who keeps a bag of energy bars in the club but alternate? So here, Chuck, you get a handful of energy bars. You be all right.
Yeah, I probably had all kinds of stuff in that bag. I have like green tea pills, liver cleanse, like some antioxidants. I'll have some, electrolyte packets. My friends all call me, say I have like satellite snack packs, Nassau food, something freeze dried to live up. But because I travel for a living, so I'm always worried about, what's going to happen 3 hours from now. Am I going to be stuck somewhere with no resources? So, I kind of squirrel things away.
So that's what you do physically. So let's get into just the image of alternate, especially now. I mean, these get-ups you have now, the eyelashes, they're like, 6 inches long. Who does all this stuff? Is this drawn out? Does somebody design these and they show them to you? Is this the look you want? Or what's the process?
The process is really interesting. And that's also one of those things that's really organic. Before each album, I guess kind of when I'm crafting it in my head, I'm also seeing the visuals in my head in terms of how the music just kind of speaks from a physical place. Is it a dark sounding record? Is it a more pop kind of oriented record? Is it got a rocky kind of edge? Is it very disco-y? What's the feel and what aesthetics make sense with that? And so I try to bring the aesthetics to the record that complement sonically what's going on with the album that I'm working on at the time. The era that you're talking about now was started during the Grime, Silk, and Thunder and Alchemy records, my previous 2 albums, and what will now be the Hero Worship record. And working with Carl Giant, we wanted to do a lot of sensual, very extravagant kind of stuff. And so that's kind of the direction that we went with the visuals and everything. Before that, during the era of like Free and Found a Cure and the whole Situation Critical album and Stranger Than Fiction album, I was wearing my hair cut very short with a blonde, and it was a very stark kind of look. It was very stripped down because that was kind of what the story of that music and that album was about. So that's kind of where it comes from. I try to complement visually what I'm thinking about the music should translate.
Okay.
And it's kind of been very interesting over the years that people kind of associate all these different looks, but then at the same time they're like, I don't know what you look like from one moment to the next. They could be standing next to me on the dance floor. They're like, oh, I never knew it was even you. So that's kind of funny because once I change my look in that way, it's hard for people to kind of recognize me from one record to the next. They're getting better now. So I think people have really kind of finally got it that I am a chameleon and that I switch up a lot. So they're paying more attention now. People are starting to recognize me easier, no matter what look I'm kind of giving at that moment.
Yeah,
so I guess that's good.
Yeah, because obviously you can go from an afro to a bob in a minute.
That's right. So that's the beauty of being a woman and being an artist. For me, it's just a further extension of your art. It's like DJing. It's an extension of your art. Writing a song, it's an extension of art, and singing it on stage and giving it to people. To me, it's all comes from the same wellspring of creativity. And for me, just the visuals are very important. Some artists, it's not so important for them. To me, it's a total package.
I've been wanting to get you on for a long time, and I'm really, really glad I got you on at this particular time because we've had a lot of artists come on here, especially female artists, because there's a lot of them get taken advantage of. We just had Lynn Lockery on, and she just went through this whole thing about we don't have any icons or idols, and with all of that said, you are one of them. You're one of the few where you stand out as an icon. They can put alternate on a record. They don't necessarily have to put so-and-so featuring alternate. You can actually stand out on your own. It's
a beauty, isn't it? It's a lot of work, though, to have accomplished that. It's been a lot of work behind the scenes. Like I said, every day, all day, at any given moment, I'm pushing something forward, moving the chain forward on all of those levels. You know, I'm in New York now, in the studio, about to go work on something. And before I got here, I was, working on some stuff for Sybil's next release. And before that, I was working on some things for the next Deep Sugar party and planning to pick up a puppy for my son on Friday. And, it's like, it's a whole lot of work, and you got to know how to balance all of those things and juggle all of those things.
Let's talk about it. You got me with the puppy thing.
But see, that's just kind of how crazy it is. Like in the midst of all of that, there's still PTA meetings.
How do you do that, Ultra?
And then I have to go to yoga the next day, and I have to go for my run. I have to balance all of these.
And then you're in Russia the next day. I mean,
and I'm in Russia the next day. That's right. Thank God for blackberries.
Wow. Well, how old is you? You have a son, right?
Yes, he's 5.
He's 5 now. Okay. Wow, it's been 5 years. So, does he know who his mom is?
He most certainly does.
Okay. So he
was in bed the other night, started singing "Getaway" just out of nowhere. I did on one of my last albums with Quentin Harris. I don't know where it came from. I'm sure he hasn't heard that song in quite a minute. And he just started singing it out of nowhere as he was going to sleep.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Quentin Harris, this is just my own personal curiosity. I'm looking at that video that you all have, and I'm looking at it looks like a typical DJ video, and then this thing turns into Kasha, Queen of the Damned,
Yes, I love it. I know, right?
What happened? What was the concept behind it? I mean, you reminded me of Aaliyah when she was playing Akasha, the Queen of the Damned, and this old vampire thing. What was the concept?
Well, we wanted to do. Well, let me tell you something. First of all, Carl Giant, who directed that video, he did that, and he did my Automatic video, and he did Give It All You Got. First of all, he has a very sick, twisted sense of humor, and as well as Quentin and I. So the three of us together is just going to be a problem. And we never want to do things in the normal kind of regular way. You can do just a kind of plain old beauty shot kind of video, but who needs another one of those? You can do the typical DJ in the club kind of video, and we've all seen that a million times. We wanted to do something interesting that was going to have a surprise that would make people go, what? To me, that's really where you show your creativity, and that's something that people are going to remember, and that's going to stand out in people's heads. So we came up with this vampire plot, and, I don't want to give it away for those who haven't seen it, what happens in the end, but I think it's an interesting story that pulls you in as it starts to unfold, and you start to realize what's about to happen, and then it makes sense with the song, and what the song is talking about, and give it to you. It works with the context of the song as well. So we just thought it would be really interesting, and let's push the envelope and make it highly sexual and highly violent. And have fun with it, because people don't do that in house music. House music, people always want to do the flowery, fluffy, people dancing in the club, DJs DJing kind of thing. There's not a story. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of what a lot of things that are missing from house music and giving it a face is that the artistry lacks and suffers a lot. And that's why it's not supported so heavily and not considered commercially viable, by radio and the majors.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't want to hold you too long, Arch. I know you're giving me this interview and you're taking time out of studio time to do this interview, and I appreciate that.
It's cool, though. It's cool.
I really appreciate it. We've gone over an hour, and I know you got to get back to the studio. One quick question, and then I want to get into a time for you to actually plug everything you're doing. I know you're performing tomorrow. Like for you to talk about that, let folks know about that party, how if they want to come see you after they just got finished listening to you. Just one more question, though, quick question. Do you have any downtime? If so, what do you do?
Yeah, I do have downtime periodically, but people, they don't they try not to let me have downtime. You know, when I'm home, I really like to just be home and in my house and resting my nerves and relaxing. And it's kind of hard sometimes because we have a lot of people that come and support our party. And, you know, they want me to come out and support their events. So I got to kind of, you know, find balance with that as well. But when I'm home, I'm chilling in my house, relaxing with my son, or I may, you know, with my crew, go to our favorite watering hole and have a couple drinks, or we'll go to the movies and we get together, we play cards. We're very big spades connoisseurs, actually. It gets quite cutthroat. I love to bowl and I love to play golf. So my son and I, we do golf a lot. Or me and the crew will get together and we'll go bowling and things like that. Okay. You know, my crew, when I speak of my crew, these are like usually pretty much the same people that I've been down with for like a million years. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's my inner circle. I know they always have my back, and they're always down to do any crazy, ridiculous scheme I come up with and have fun with it. And I, you know, drag them around the world and work them really hard. And, you know, they really, really make my life a lot easier, whether we're just like chilling and it's downtime and we're not on working. But when it's time to be on, they know how to be on, and they know how to handle the situation. They know that they represent me. They understand the dynamics of, yes, they're my friend, but they also represent something else when we're out in public and working. A lot of them work with me in a lot of capacity, in a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. And it's really great to have a special group of people like that. So when I'm home, we're just kind of chilling, you know. And occasionally when I get an opportunity, I like to go out and actually dance and hear good house music or somebody else's, you know, situation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, you know, you got a lot of stuff going on. Like I said, I know you got to run. What about, you know, want to give out some contact info if folks want to get booking information for you? How do they get in touch with you? Website, and what you got going on in the immediate future? It's your time to just plug away.
Well, you can find out all things Alternate by going to my website, alternate.com. And through that, you can find out any booking information through the contacts link there. You regularly post what's happening as far as new music, upcoming parties, just everything. I also have a Facebook fan page for the Facebook, you know, folks who live and die by that. Deep Sugar has its Facebook page as well. You can become a fan on that page and join the page as well. Keep track of when the parties are happening. Our next Deep Sugar party is Saturday, March 12th, and that will be featuring the Residents, which will be Jerome Hicks, Tommy Davis, Wayne Davis, special guest DJ Biscuit, and in the chamber will be Soul Giver playing Baltimore Club, hip-hop, R&B, drum and bass, dubstep, and everything but the kitchen sink, basically. My next single is actually dropping next week on the 22nd. It's a track called Turn It Up. And for the Underground Heads, is a really great remix done by DJ Spin and the Motherfunkers that's going down really, really well. Mm-hmm. Deep Sugar's next release, other than mine, will be Sybil's next record called Troubled Waters. That's coming out the first week of March, and that got great remixes on it by Frankie Knuckles and Matthias Heilbronn. Really, really great package. Getting really great love on the promo tip from the DJs. So, you know, Deep Sugar, the party, the music, you know, that's what it says. If you look at our little sign when you come in, it says Deep Sugar, the sound, the label, the party. We're a trifecta.
What happened to Sugar is Sweeter? What happened to that?
Sugar is sweeter.
Sugar is sweeter, baby.
Is sweeter. Well, we have a couple of slogans. We have the Sugar is Sweeter. We still use that. We use Deep Sugar, the sound, the party, and the label. And mostly we use Deep Sugar, experience it for yourself. And that one's the most important because most of the time people have preconceived notions about what a party is or is not. Mm-hmm. And so we say that to drop your preconceived notions and experience it for yourself. Don't listen to what other people say. Experience it for yourself. Okay. So that's what's going on in my world. You know, I'm gigging tomorrow. If you're in New York, I will be at Le Poisson Rouge, which is on Bleecker and Sullivan. The doors open at 11 o'clock. I go on at 1 a.m. It is Wayne Williams' birthday party featuring Kenny Dope and Terry Hunter DJing along with Wayne Williams. So that's the only thing gig-wise I'm doing stateside for quite a minute. Winter Music Conference coming up in March. I will be DJing for the Segafredo party on Wednesday night at the Segafredo Cafe for DJ Hallex, who's from Bordeaux, France. And then I'm going to have to leave because I have to be in Australia that week, so I don't get to even enjoy the full conference this year, which is kind of tragic, but, you know. And I'm also having a birthday party in March at my Deep Sugar in D.C. on Friday, March 25th. Our Deep Sugar in D.C. is always on a Friday, so it'll be Friday, March the 25th will be my birthday party there. So I think that's it for the immediate stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Ultra, it was a pleasure having you. I'm glad I could just pick up the phone and call you. I mean, that's nice. It was a pleasure to have you on. Much success. I'm sure you're going to be around a long time, probably talking to you probably about 10, 15 years from now, trying to figure out how you still look like you looked in 1988.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so. I'm working on it, boo.
Much success. Ultra Nate, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully we can get you back because we want to do subsequent shows with our guests, maybe shorter shows. This is the big history show where we get to know everything about Ultra Nate. This will show up on the Hands On Radio podcast. You can find it on the Hands On Radio YouTube channel. It's going to come up there. It'll be everywhere. It'll show up in Facebook, all over. You know, if you miss some of it, you can catch the whole thing in archive. In fact, it'll be archived on Blog Talk Radio in about 20 minutes after we get off the air. Next week, we got Kathy Brown coming on. Hopefully, we can have our co-host, Tina Sinuosa, back online. We can get her technical difficulties straightened out. Once again, thanks, Ultra Nate. I know you got to get back to the studio. I'll see you at one of those sugar parties.
You got it.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Ultra.
Thank you, guys.
Right.
Bye-bye.